Hello and welcome back to another festive coding session with Mr. Jacob. Today on the 14th day of our Advent of Languages, where we strive to implement the same thing in the 24 first days of December in another programming language, we want to do something with PHP. PHP originally named the hypertext preprocessor, or the better said, PHP hypertext preprocessor, so it was a recursive acronym, is nowadays one of the languages that powers a lot of big websites, shop systems, and different applications within the web. And it is still going strong till today. It has gone through a lot of different iterations, and it has gone through a lot of different versions and changes, and evolution of this language is really enormous if you think of where it came from an originally some sort of language to simply do dynamic HTML processing, so really being a preprocessor for HTML, like including a little bit of data here and there into an HTML document. It got to a full-blown, very efficient language for the web with an enormous ecosystem around it. Today, we won't even be able to tackle a little bit of that ecosystem, but we will be able to create a simple little program. And this simple little program, as always, should output something like, for example, this ASCII tree. And as it is mostly in the web-used language, we won't output this as usual to the command line, but we strive to output it to a website or as a website. Okay, so let's quickly start by simply creating an index.php file. And for reasons of the backwards compatibility, and we will see later on why that is and how we can use it otherwise, we always have to start our file with a PHP opening tag, so to inform the system or the processor about it, that we now want to start processing PHP code and not do something different. What this something different is, we will see later on. Then we usually do in modern PHP scripts something like we enable strict types, so that we actually enable a little bit more stricter type checking, which simply wasn't there in older versions of PHP. So this is not enabled by default, and therefore we do that simply to have a little bit of ease of mind during development and to catch errors early on. So that is usually how you see PHP scripts started these days in modern PHP world. The next thing that we will usually see is some sort of namespace declaration. So essentially the declaration where everything that you now define in this file lives namespace-wise. We will not do that. We will simply use the global namespace because you can simply do that, and then therefore everything that you define will be within the global namespace. It makes things, for our example, a little bit easier. However, you can and will do in modern PHP usually use a namespace. So after that, you have a lot of usually use calls which import different things from different other namespaces so that you can actually simply utilize them. We won't do that as well because we are simply using the global namespace anyways. So we can actually use all of the default std kind of standard library PHP functions there, and we can use our own functions because we are all defining them in the global namespace. Okay, so what can we do now? We can, for example, simply write code here. We can tell the system that we want to, for example, do something like hello Xmas, as we always usually do. Something like that. So let's do that, and let's write that, and let's simply execute PHP with our index.php file here. And as you can see, it printed on the console hello Xmas. But wait, I said we wanted this as a website. And essentially, PHP does not care about where it's outputting something, because its output context is usually not that important to it. So it can output to the console. However, if I now put this into some sort of web server environment, it would output that to a web server. And greatly and gladly for us, PHP comes with an integrated development web server since a couple of versions ago. so that we can actually do something like that. We can tell PHP, start a local web server with files from the local folder while processing PHP files in there and serve that on localhost port 8080. So we are now started that. Of course, you would never want to use that in production or anything, any serious setup. However, for quick testing development, it is kind of a good thing. So let's go to our browser. Let's simply do localhost 8080. And as you can see, we have our Hello Xmas there. However, it is not given as a website, of course. It is just this text content. So we have only provided this text content. So how could we change this a little? We could change this by more or less using PHP the way it was originally devised to be used, or it was the idea to use it as a hypertext preprocessor or more or less a template language. And even though today this is not done anywhere as far as I know, there are a lot of proper and more sophisticated and even really better at their job, very much more suited template languages and template systems written in PHP for PHP, which are then used if you need to process templates, for example. However, we want to really use PHP as a template language. So what we could do is something like, we could define a variable here called hello, and we do something like Xmas. We put something like Xmas into it. Variables in PHP always start with a $sign, by the way. They are it's just the way that you define variables in PHP. Naming of variables always start with a $sign. So what we are now going to do is we are requiring another file. So essentially we are loading a file like an include, you can think of that, and we call that template PHP. So we are simply requiring now the template PHP file at this point in the script. So essentially the template PHP will now be evaluated at this position within this structure here. So if we now create that file, like for example, we do a vsplit on template.php, there we are, and we are going to create a website here. Let's quickly do set file type HTML to make things a little bit easier for us while writing that thing. So let's quickly create an HTML more or less structure here. We have a head, we will have a title here, something like Merry Christmas, Advent of languages. Has been a long day, I can't type anymore. And we most likely want some styling here, some CSS styling. Then we want our body here. And then we want maybe a paragraph within our, a paragraph within our body. My God, what's that? I can't really type. And then we now want to somehow have the contents of our hello variable there. And as you can see, I have not put anywhere our starting tag, our starting PHP tag. So everything that is outside of the PHP tags will be actually interpreted by PHP as something to output. It will simply take that and output it, and only something that is within the PHP tags will be evaluated. So what I can now do is I can put a PHP tag in here, and I can do echo, and I can simply take the hello variable here and put that there. And we will see a better way to actually define that in a second. And as I've said, please do not really do this in some sort of production environment. This is just an example now. It is not done these days like this. You have please use a proper template language if you want to do it like that. However, now, if I go back to our browser and I reload that, you can see that I have the contents of this variable here. Let's quickly do some formatting. We will need it later on anyway, so we can make it a little bit bigger and nicer here. So let's maybe do something like we want the body. First of all, we want HTML and body to be with 100% height. Come on. 100%, something like that. And then we can do something like We want the body to be display flex most likely. And we want, let's maybe remove margin and padding here as well. So display flex. Then we want something like justify content center, align items center as well. Maybe we do something like font size 5 rem, and we could maybe just go ahead and quickly tell that we want a font family of monospace, because we will need it later on for our tree as well. So this should actually make the font a little bit bigger and center it if I haven't done something horribly wrong there. So let's quickly check that I did not. And as you can see now, we have this a little bit more readable in the middle of the screen in a monospace font. Okay, nice thing. So now what I can do is, this is a little bit of a long and verbose syntax. And as PHP, as I've said, was originally used and even meant to be a template language, we can do something like that. We can do a short opening tag here, followed by an equal sign. And this is essentially the same thing as putting whatever we put here in front or in the after an echo. So if we have something like this, it will automatically kind of put an echo in front, and this looks a little bit more like simply accessing a template variable. So let's check that this still works, and as you can see, it does. So what we can now do is we can do something like hello. No, not here. I'm sorry. We do that here, of course. Outside of that, we do hello, and then we can do something like that. And if we now do that, you can see that it is actually usable as a proper template language. Okay, so now let's somehow create our Christmas tree here. And I think maybe we can do this by somehow doing something like creating a quick class there, because PHP is an object-oriented language. Or you can use it as an object-oriented language. It has all the neat constructs around object-oriented programming, which is usually used in big projects today. So let's maybe do that. Let's maybe create something like a tree builder, which we are now instantiating here. So tree builder, and oh, you can't see me typing there. That's a problem. Okay, let's do it down here. And I want something like a builder, and I want new tree builder there. And maybe the number of levels. So let's quickly see. We want something like, let me copy that out to display a tree like that. Let me grab that and let me maybe put that there. Okay, so let's quickly clean up the spaces here and maybe put comments there so that we have something to reason about. So what we actually want to do here is we want to define how many of those zigzagging levels, like this one, this tree has 3 of them, actually should be printed there. So and we are defining that by giving our tree builder the amount of 5 there, and then we could maybe do something like tree equals maybe builder build. And there you can already see some other convention. If we're accessing a property on an instance of a class or an object, we are actually using this arrow sort of notation there. Everything else is not really special. And now, after we have kind of done this, we could use our template to access the contents of this tree structure here, which we will see in a second what this will be, and actually output something to the screen. So let's remove that hello here. And let's maybe just quickly save that, go over there and do something like, for now, do a tree here. Or we can even do something else here, which would be a little bit, or which would be kind of nice for us. We can do something like, we can do PHP, and then we can use something called var_dump, which is capable of dumping the contents of nearly every data type available in PHP for kind of debugging purposes. And for now, we will then just take a look at what this not hello, but tree is. And let's maybe do something like white space pre on the body as well. so that everything that is in there, or maybe we do that on, let's maybe do that on body P. So or just P anywhere. So every paragraph actually we are printing will have whitespace pre, which makes things a little bit easier for us, because it will then simply take the real white spaces there and print them out, instead of doing the usual thing in HTML where we contract all the white spaces together. At least this should work. Okay. So now we need to create some sort of tree builder here for this to make it even work, because otherwise it won't. So let's create a tree builder.php file. And as with the usual things here, we want this to be a proper PHP file. So we started with a PHP tag. We do a declare strict types equals 1 at the beginning. Let's go up here, scroll a little bit down so that we can at least see what we are doing here. And yeah, we need to somehow, of course, include this file now. So we have used require here to essentially cause a loading of this template file. And there is a neat other little thing in PHP called require once. And what this essentially does, by the way, this is here part of the language. Therefore, I can call it either with or without braces. If we have something like functions, for example, or instances here, so this, there, and there. Wait a second. So there, for example, where we call build, we need braces. So only for those language functions here, they are optional. And yeah, you can either use them with or without. I have down here used it without. However, usually it's used with nowadays. So we do a require once here, and we simply require our tree builder PHP. And yeah, I know you can't see the full line. However, that's just a require once on the tree builder PHP, nothing more. And it will simply make sure that if we are doing some sort of recursive including files, it will guarantee to only load the thing once, which is quite neat if you do not use it as a template, as we are doing here, which you won't do nowadays. But you are using it only to provide some sort of part of your application there, to just split it out into another file, then this is quite nice. Because it handles automatically for you that what you would do in C, for example, with an include guard in a header file, for example. There are today in modern applications, we use other systems. We have so-called autoloaders, which we can implement in PHP, and mostly they are generated from a file structure automatically for us, which we can actually use to tell PHP, if you can't find some symbol, then use please this functionality here to do some sort of lookup where to find it, and then automatically include that code. And that's what used in modern PHP. But that would blow this whole thing here out of the water. So let's create our class, and we can create this as a tree builder here, as a tree builder class, by simply using the class keyword. And now, first of all, we need a constructor for it, which takes the argument here. Can I scroll this a little bit down? Which takes come on. Which takes this argument, this 5 here. So a constructor function is actually defined by this specific naming here, calling it a function underscore construct. So we are defining a function, even though it's public, we want a public function here. So we are defining a public function, which is the named underscore construct. And this is actually a specific syntax just in PHP, how you use it and how you define it, and that's the way that we actually do that in PHP. And there are some other magic methods, they are called, which you can define on classes, which, for example, can be used to implement dynamic setters or getters for values, or to even do dynamic call dispatching and stuff like that. And all of those start with an underscore. So just check out magic methods if you are interested in that. And now we have, since PHP 8, I think, in PHP something called property promotion. So we can actually do something, or is it argument promotion? I'm not 100% sure. We can do something like that, like this. We tell it that we want an integer, and this is actually optional. We could leave this type out, and it would automatically be inferred there and not checked then. Because then you could put something in there, whatever, a string, for example. However, we want it to be checked as a scalar integer, so we just define it like that. And then we can do something like a group, for example, and put our constructor function here. And what this now does is, as we now call this function construct private int group, is something that if you put the group in here, it will automatically promote the group to a private property of that class. So it will be accessible later on for us. So we don't even need an implementation within our constructor, because why should we do something there? We don't need anything more. So now another thing, we want a public function build, don't we? So let's quickly create that. And the usual coding style in PHP is more or less doing it that way. However, you can more or less do it like you want. But most of the times, this is actually, wait a second, this is actually the way that we define that. And I think that is more or less how my VI wants to force me to do that. However, let's do it like that to just save. Come on, save a little bit of space there. Okay, so we have our build function now. So let's for now just return something, and we tell it what we want to return. This is optional as well. We don't need return types, but we can. And we want to return an array. And you might now ask yourself, why the hell an array? Didn't we want to have something like, for example, text in there, or the contents of the tree, or anything else? And the reason why we are returning an array, because an array in PHP is a so-called associative array, which means it's more or less a hash map in its implementation, and therefore you can put string keys in there. So what I can actually do is I can use the newer as in since version, I don't even know, it's a lot of years old already, shorter array syntax with this one. Or I could use an older one, which would be something like this. However, usually today you use the short syntax for arrays. So let's use the short syntax for arrays, and I can do something like text hello world here. So that is actually how we define array context or contents in PHP. We do the key, and then we do this double fat arrow thingy here and define what should be in there. And that's actually now what is returned by this function. So let's save this, and essentially now our code here should be able to execute. However, maybe we want to do something like access the property here, the group property, just to check that it is there. So let's maybe put another thing in here and call it groups in this returned array, and simply access this groups there and put the contents there. So if you want to access something on the object itself, on this instance itself, a property like this, you prefixes this with a $this, and then you use the usual arrow syntax here to access this one. So let's maybe store this and just make sure that we have stored everything to our disk. And now we should be able to go to our browser and hopefully load that and get some error here. No, not at all. We actually got the right thing here. It's, however, written a little bit strange. However, we did not get the groups. Why did we not get the groups? Let's check if we did something wrong there. So as you can see, we now have an array here with 2 elements, and we got those. And this is just the output telling us where actually this is placed. That is the I can show you here quickly. So it is actually printing out. No, it's actually warning us about this undefined. Oh, you cannot. Oh, you cannot read. Wait, what? If I make it bigger, it makes bigger the. Okay, that does not make sense at all. Okay. Yeah, it's telling me that there is an undefined property here. I can't easily show you this, I think. So let's quickly see, what did we do wrong there? We seem to have not properly used. Oh, we called it group and not groups, and that's the problem there. So let's do that again. And now, as you can see, the output is a little bit better, even though it seems to be somehow wrongly indented. Yeah, most likely, I know why that is, because we are printing this not at the beginning, but we told it that inside the P, we want white space pre, so interpret white spaces as literal, and then we put white spaces in there due to formatting. So if we do it like this now, it should actually be properly displayed. So we can see now that we have this int groups 5, and we have this string, and we have this text and all that stuff. So as we are already a little bit in our video, with regards to time, I guess we want to quickly now really implement our tree builder. And I guess we can now, just for the sake of having a little bit more space, reorganize our windows a little bit here. I guess we don't actually need that index file anymore. So after having get rid of it completely, we can, I guess, easily now simply open up our tree builder here and have it a little bit more full screen for you to see what we are actually going to do there. So we need to somehow create our build function now. So let's most likely create some more methods there just to print out our tree. Let's maybe grab the tree another time here again, or let's maybe just really grab what we need from the tree here. So without all the spaces, I guess. So that we can kind of put it here. What? Wait, what? um, that's interesting. Okay. Oh, because I did not. I only grabbed the part that I wanted there. Yeah. Okay. It makes sense. However, just to have a reference to talk about what we are going to do now. So we need to implement the drawing of those groups as always. So I guess we could create something like build groups or make groups, maybe make groups, and make groups will return an array which will contain, I guess, the different groups there. So this will be a private function, of course. And what we will do now here is we need something to create spaces. So let's maybe create another helper function for us called private function make space, or just spaces, and it takes an integer which is the number of spaces, and it will return a string. And as I've said, all of those return types and input types are optional. You can simply leave them out and it will work the same. However, then it can't be validated that you have actually put in the right thing there. So we want to return a space thingy there of length n, and we can actually use these str repeat function of PHP for that easily to just output this amount of strings. So now we have that there, and now we can, I guess, create our make groups function by simply doing space before as so many times, and we do space before and we tell it that we want this, this spaces, and it will be this groups, minus, and we need some sort of iterator because we have our make groups function here. So minus some I, and let's put this actually in a loop, like for I equals 0, I is less than this groups who want to do I plus plus, come on, and we simply put that in there. And let's create some sort of output array here. So we have output equals, and this will be simply an empty array so that we can now fill this up later on with all the different groups there that we need. And now let's see, we have for I, this groups here, I space before this spaces, this groups minus I. So this is the amount of spaces that we need in front of the tree. Then we have space in between or something like that. I guess we called it inner most of the times. However, we can simply do this now here. And the inner space will actually be the current I times 2 for this first line. And now we do something like output with this bracket syntax equals, and then now we can put in our space there. We will use a simple string interpolation there, which can be done by using the square brackets and then a variable after that. So we want we want space before, then we want a slash, then we want space in between, and then we want a backslash. And that's essentially what we want to put there. And this syntax here actually tells PHP to push this into the dynamic array as the next free entry. So it simply uses the next numeric index then of the array and simply puts it in there. It's a quickly and nice syntax to create and fill up an array. So now we have this in our output array. And now we need, of course, do this for the second line, because we always have two of those lines in one group. So the second line will be mostly the same, and we will be simply reusing our variables here, as there is no specific difference between setting it and defining it or declaring it. We can simply use that again here, and we will do groups -i-1, because it needs to be one less, because it's moved one to the left. And the spaces will actually be I +1 times 2, because the spacing here is the one that is usually used in the next iteration. It's the same, so we use that there. Okay, so now we should have our output. So let's return our output here. And now we have make groups, and we of course need something to make the trunk as well. So let's do a private function and not only make trunk, but we need this divider line here as well. So let's do make divider quickly, and this function will return an array as well. So let's return arrays for all of those, just to have it in the same way, I guess. And this, or maybe we could just return a string, as we know that the divider is only one string. Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's just do it as a string. And then we return there a simple string repeat, and we want the minus repeated. And what we want here exactly is not self, but this groups, come on, times 2 plus 2, because that is +2, not +1, because that's essentially the amount that we need there. We have already figured this out a lot of times in the last advent of languages. So now we need a private function there again, which gives us make trunk. Come on, make trunk. And this will again return an array, I think, because it will have multiple lines. And it will have something like spacing will be this spaces, and it will have exactly this groups spaces in front of it. And then we have the line, the trunk line, which will actually be something like spacing, and it will be followed by 2 pipe characters there. And now we can simply return an array which contains 2 times the line. So if we don't specify a key here and an index there, it will automatically be indexed and created by PHP. So let's do that like this. And now let's use all our functions. Let's maybe return our groups here, which is this make groups. And let's return our divider, which is this make divider. And let's return our trunk maybe. And this is make trunk. And you will see in a second why I am kind of doing it this structured way, and this way, like in different parts, because now we should actually be able to use. Wait, did I do deprecated var? Okay, wait a second. I did something wrong there, because in the string interpolation, did I not do? Wait, this is rightly interpolated. There I did something wrong, yeah. You could, in the past, you could do it like that, but it is deprecated. I didn't even want to do that. You have to put the curly braces outside of this interpolation, of this variable interpolation that you want to do there. And it was just kind of a reflex. So let's see again, what do we do here? What do we have here now? Okay, there is still some sort of error. Let me quickly see what is actually happening there. Dollar using var in the use var. Okay, that should not happen anymore. Did I not? Oh, I did not properly reload, it seems. As now we have something cut off here. Okay, so we can't see it fully, but as you can see, there is this part of, for example, trunk, and there is this part of divider, and those are arrays as we expected them, and this is obviously part of our tree. I can't scroll up further there. So let's just quickly see how we can actually now render this properly. And for that, we are just going into our template here. And I guess we could do something like we could maybe format this by using spans or something like that. And we could do class and put the class there, for example, that we call groups. And we put in there now simply using our equal sign, our question mark equal sign syntax there. We put in there our, let's see, tree. No, sorry. Tree with groups. And we somehow need to render those as groups are actually lines. So maybe we want to render them in a different way, maybe not whitespace pre anymore, but maybe using maybe using even not diffs, but let's do it like that. So we have this paragraph, might not be the perfect design now. So let's just do something like div class tree quickly here. And I guess I need to do file type HTML here again, just to make it a little bit more easy for me to change HTML here in my editor. So what we have now is we have this, and then we put the groups in there, and this will be the end of a div. And we need, of course, now to iterate our groups, I think. So what we do here is we do simply PHP, and we do for each tree groups, tree for each tree. Come on, tree groups as, and we do group. And then we could actually do something like for each of those thingies there, and we need an end of that. So PHP. No, we need to open this here, and now we need to close this here. So we have a for each loop there, and now we should actually be able to iterate those groups. So for each of those groups, we could create something called line, for example, and we simply put in there then, no, come on, the contents of group that we took before. Group there. We will see in a second if that works at all, what I'm currently crafting here. So now I want the more or less same thing for our divider. So let's do divider here. However, we don't need the for loop there. We only need the line, and the line should actually be tree, and it should be divider to be precise here. And we have this as a string, so we can directly output it there. And now we need more or less the same thing for our trunk as well. And there we can actually do trunk, and we know as it only has essentially really 2 entries, we can address them like that and can directly access them without a for loop. So now let's quickly see if this outputs something at all, or if it's completely broken. And as you can see, it outputs all our content. However, the formatting is of course now broken because we didn't format this properly. So what we want now is we want something like we want .groups, .divider, and .trunk to be white space pre, so that actually the white space in those the white space in those divs here is essentially really correct. No, that's not true. I want that in line. I want the line should have the proper white spacing. That's what I want. So now if I reload that, we actually should have our Christmas tree, and it is a little bit large. So let's maybe quickly change that by going into our index PHP and telling the tree builder we want only 3 levels there. So let's check out that result. And there we have our Christmas tree. And now, because I have structured it like that, and that is why I divided it up into all of those different parts, I can now easily do something like I can do groups. Color is now something like 00 FF 00. We can do something like, and I have not have an idea, a divider could be something like maybe I have no idea what is a good color for a divider. Maybe a gray. We could do that in a gray, can't we? Or maybe something like that. I have no idea how this looks in the end. Maybe I'm completely wrong by thinking about how this should be or could be. And the trunk, and that shouldn't be a colon, and there should be color in front of that. And the trunk then could be actually something like, come on, could have something like a color of maybe a brown, but I don't know what a brown color is. So maybe we make this thing uh, a dark red, maybe some sort of dark red, maybe something like this, and we will see if this how this looks. And I guess all of this will look horrible. However, no, it doesn't even. Oh, yeah. There we go. So should have this been defined by, did I do something wrong there? So 440000, this should actually, have I defined this not correctly? Div class trunk. Okay, so why is it not picking up the color? What am I not seeing there? Did I not properly save that? Okay, in my opinion, this should be red now. So what is if I do FF0000 there? Okay, now it is red. Okay, I guess we can leave it like that. I had no idea why it didn't work before. So, but as you can see now, we have done a little bit of PHP here to create a Christmas tree in the web browser in colors, and I guess that is a neat little result. And we did it using PHP as a templating language and using some of the minimally object-oriented features of PHP to just create our Christmas tree as always. And I hope you had fun seeing me do this. You might have learned something. I have learned something for sure here again, because I haven't used PHP as a templating language for like forever. And yeah, I had fun doing this, and I hope you had fun too. And I hope you will see me tomorrow in the Advent of Languages. Again, where we do the same thing in a little bit more near to the real hardware language. You will see what I mean by that once you check in tomorrow. So let's get going, and I hope to see you there. Bye.